Right now on Tech Radio, Ireland gets charged.
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online and on air with RT Radio, we bring you the latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. This is episode 1039, looking back on the 7 biggest stories of the week, including shocking figures on Irish electric cars. Is Europe losing in AI? And Google could be ready to split. Plus, our guest is the head of innovation at Fidelity's Centre for Applied Technology and shares some of what they are up to with emerging technologies like AI, blockchain and human-machine interfaces. A lot to get through. Let's get to it.
From techcentral.ie, this is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
I'm Dusty. Joining me as always is our editor-in-chief, Niall Kitson. Niall, shocking figures out this week from the Central Statistics Office, all right, all about electric car vehicles in Ireland. Sales are down year on year of electric vehicles, okay? Take a guess as to how much the sales are actually down by.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, the car market is actually recovering. Granted, EVs are still expensive. But second-hand cars are expensive now as well. So is the gap that much? So if something is going down, given the amount of interest that's still there, I mean, 10 to 15% would be pretty catastrophic. I mean, this is something that we want to see. You know, we want to see it going up. We don't want to see it going down.
I would have said 4% or something like that, because they always create headlines. Sales are down 4%. Oh my God. Yeah. You're saying 15. The Central Statistics Office are saying that sales of electric cars in Ireland are down year on year 25%.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well let's tease this apart. Why would that be?
I just don't think the incentive is there. Because electric cars, I know that there has been all kinds of incentives financially and, you know, kind of with benefit in kind and stuff like that. But there's nothing really there for me to kind of go, do you know what? I'm going to get an electric car. Anytime that I'm getting a taxi back home, and maybe that's not the best time to be having a conversation with a taxi driver at 2 a.m. in the morning when I have a few beers on me. But anyway, they all kind of go, they say, the old hybrid's not worth it. Because the hybrid cars will only drive on electricity when it's doing under 30 kilometers an hour. So they're not really seeing the benefit of that, so they say. And then with the actual electric, they say, yeah, great on fuel, but they're so expensive to buy in the first place.
And to replace
That's
the batteries.
What I hear from the taxi drivers. Yeah.
Those batteries do not compute.
And then you have to replace the battery. You've got all that. That's actually, there's two things. There's two things that would stop me from buying an electric car. Or these are my concerns, right? Number one is the battery, okay? I think, though, that the batteries are meant to last like 10 years plus. And I don't do that. I drive around the city, out into the suburbs, maybe as far as Newbridge or something like that. I'm not like kind of doing runs to Cork, between Cork and Dublin all the time. So I don't, maybe the battery is not so much a thing because I would have gotten rid of the car, but it is something to consider. And then the other thing that I would be actually really worried about is they call it range anxiety. Will I have enough juice in my battery to get me to where it is that I'm going to go?
Yeah. And if you are particularly interested in range anxiety, which we all should be, the ESB actually has a facility up in their website showing their charger network and what kind of chargers they have, because they've got three. They've got 3 different kinds. They've got a standard charger, they've got fast chargers, and they've got high power chargers, right? So your standard charger it'll sort your car out between 1 and 6 hours, right? Pretty long time. Fast chargers, they claim they'll get up to 80% in about 30 minutes. It's not bad at all. And then the high power chargers are apparently within 6 minutes, you'll get 100 kilometers. It will get you to somewhere you want to be.
Absolutely.
It'll plug that gap. And that's kind of what they're intended for. So here's the thing though. Have you ever spent between 1 and 6 hours filling your tank full of petrol?
No, and I get what you mean, but I would spend, say, you could say 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, if you want to look at a short time period like that to fill up your car. So I didn't know that it's 6 minutes and you can top up the car with 100 kilometers. That's good. That's really good. That's almost down to kind of, well, I'm just going to pop in and fill the car up with petrol kind of a side of things. I do have both of my brother-in-laws have got electric cars, and both of them have got charge points at home. And they say what they do is they just plug it in overnight. Off it goes and it does its thing. And they're doing mainly local driving, you see. They're not necessarily heading off to Galway and beyond or wherever it happens to be.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. But if you were somebody that was in maybe sales and you're on the road an awful lot or something like that, if you were to have a look at the charging network, I mean, there's entire parts of the country where there might only be a handful of charge points, and if you arrive, there's no guarantee that they're actually going to be free and usable. I know there's one up near me that I gather was vandalized at one point. So that's another thing you have to worry about. I mean, looking at certain counties, there might only be like 8 or 10 chargers. Now, if you were to go into a county and be told there might only be between 8 and 10 petrol pumps, you'd be laughed at. You'd be absolutely laughed at. So this is the problem. This is the problem we have. The infrastructure isn't there. Ergo, people are not buying expensive cars.
I think it's a big problem. And you know what? It's about to get worse. Much worse. And here's what I think is bananas. Because we know that electric cars are much better for the environment and sustainability and the environment and weather change and global warming and all that. I mean, we are actually seeing it happening. It's not a, oh, in the future this will happen. It's happening now. All right. We should be doing something about it now. What are we talking about? We're talking about the EU putting a duty on Chinese electric cars of 35%. So if you want to buy, what is it, BYD? I think it's one of the Chinese brands. If you want to buy one of those, if they put that duty on, it's going to become a full third more expensive.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, so why we do it? Now, I understand it's money and, kind of they're saying that the Chinese government is subsidizing the manufacturing, and maybe they are. But then maybe there's also a case where, China is such a big market and they're just selling so much cars that they're able to make them so much cheaper in the first place. They've been doing that with all kinds of products for generations. So I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing just about electric cars and about the price. And here's the incentive. I said it to my brother-in-law. One of them is really good at money, right? And he'll have everything down. He's a great guy for getting a bargain, right? And he'll tell you, and it saves it, all this kind of stuff. So I asked him, I said, how much does it cost you to fill that car? Because most people with electric cars don't know. All right. So he told me he's got an average size saloon. So it wouldn't be like a small car, say mid size or large. It's somewhere around there. He says it costs him, I think, €25 to fill it in electric charge.
Oh, okay.
If it was petrol, he would be spending 80 or more. So I kind of went, that is a huge difference. Huge difference. So just on that alone. But other than that, I don't think there is any incentive. And as I say, I'm worried about this, kind of EU duty going on Chinese cars, which would make the whole thing more expensive in the long run. Anyways, the EU kind of was also came up for conversation during the week because we always would give EU credit for saying, fair play, Digital Markets Act, and for kind of protecting our identity and our data and stuff like that, right? But an interesting comment was made on LinkedIn during the week saying that the EU could be holding back AI growth in the European market on two levels. One, you and I being able to use it because we've got Facebook introducing AI features and Google are introducing AI features. Nobody wants to launch them in the EU in case it crosses over the DMA. So there is a little bit worry about that. But also because of that, then we're not really featuring in the top countries which are developing AI. I think the top three at the moment are the USA, Singapore, Sweden might be third. a report that I saw during the week says the EU is a great place for AI, but it's nowhere near achieving its potential where it should be.
Okay, okay. Well, let's look at why that might be the case. It's because the EU is actually interested in protecting people. The American model and undisputed America is number one in AI at the moment. I know the UK, there are real plans to, well, there's certainly real rhetoric for the UK to become number two. Um, but it's all, it's still this move fast and break things, dim-witted ideology that we get from the States when it comes to everything. And
Oh,
as a result, you
yeah.
get a lot of products and an attitude towards people's data that is grossly unhealthy. So, yes, the States is
I
going to
don't
innovate,
know.
but it's going to
Hmm.
come from an unhealthy place. We might be slower in the EU, but you can be fairly sure that what we'll come up with will probably be of a better quality. You are
Okay,
unconvinced.
I'm unconvinced. Silence, unconvinced, considering it. Yes, maybe, but like everything else good in life, do I want to wait? No. I definitely don't want to wait. It's like kind of if you know something cool is out there, you want to get your hands on it now. You don't want to be kind of,
Yeah.
well, I'll tell you what, you know what, let's wait for it to go through several layers of approval, and then maybe in 6 months' time, then I'll get it. Nah, forget it.
Well,
In this case, I do like the
here's the
American way.
thing. What is your favorite large language model that you've been playing with at the moment?
All of them. One of the ones this week is Google's Notebook.
Oh, yeah, that's good
Notebook
stuff.
LM.
Yeah, have you been
And
building podcasts with it?
no, I haven't, because I've heard, for those who don't know, Google have released their Notebook LM, and it's very, very good. I'll tell you why I like it, because you can dump PDFs, links to websites, text documents, Word documents, links to YouTube videos if there's a transcription for it, and a couple of other things. Basically, you can dump all of that into, say, one notebook folder, all right? And then you can let the AI loose on it. But the only knowledge that the AI has is the information that you've put into that folder. And because
Yeah.
you're the one who put the information in, hopefully you'll know what the actual information is, and you'll know that it's correct, and that the language model is not going to, kind of, I was going to say hyperventilate, but start giving you information that doesn't exist. You know what I mean? So I find it really, really good for hallucinate. I find it really good if you have a project where you've got a whole load of information and you need to distill that down into something sensible. As good.
Yeah.
The one thing that it does do, and this is where it's setting the world of social media light, is there's an audio summary button on it. And when you press that, what Google's LM will do, Notebook LM will do, is it will summarize all of the content that you've uploaded, and then two AI voices, a male and a female, will then discuss everything, giving an overview of what the information is. And when you listen to it, it's very like a podcast recording. It's very NPR in the States. And when you think about it, it's like, wow, that's amazing. It really is. Do you remember the first time you used ChatGPT and you put in a question or whatever it was you want to know about, and you saw that answer being typed up? You see that kind of shock and awe where you kind of, oh my God. That's exactly the reaction that you get from this Notebook LM audio description, because you click the button and then 2 minutes later, yeah, today we're really getting into technology news. Our pals, Niall and Dusty, have been talking about it. Yeah, they did a really interesting article about that. It's quite stunning what it is. But I've heard so many examples of people using it. It's the same two voices. It's the same style. Do you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
It gets real boring real fast. Now, I am aware that it will develop and it will get better.
Right. So
But
we
there's
might get a
something
choice of
about-
voices.
Might get a choice of voices or characters or personalities or whatever. I think it's that this is true, though, of AI, in that the bricks are there, but it's not finessed just yet.
Hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense? There's a lot done. This is what the politicians say. A lot done, a lot more to do. That kind of a way.
Yeah.
What a
We
stunning
need to get
start
away from
off.
that.
No, but what a stunning start we have had with AI in the last 2 years. There's lots that needs to be ironed out, but when it is, wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what. How did I even get onto this? Oh, yes.
I think I dragged you.
You asked me about AI and being able to use. You dragged me in, didn't you? Kicking and screaming. But listen, that kind of leads on to another thing that I wanted to chat about, which is kind of the dark side of AI. And there was a great article on techcentral.ie this week about kind of fraud attempts. And it's saying that since AI, a new report from Signicat in the Netherlands, they said that 42% of fraud attempts today are now AI generated.
Yeah.
And a third of them are successful, which is kind of like, wow. And this is where the whole thing with AI comes in. It's because it's able to do, I've said this before, where AI is able to take a conversation, audio, video, whatever it is, put it into a transcription, and then it's able to sift through it and get all of the relevant data out of it. All right. So it's kind of like the old spy days where somebody would be bugging a house somewhere or whatever, like, and you'd have to listen carefully for hours and hours and hours on end. AI can now do that in a nanosecond. It'll just take the conversation, transcribe it. It'll take out whatever it is. And then, of course, you can search it. And you can do that thousands and thousands and thousands of times over. So it's no surprise to see that almost half of fraud attempts now are AI generated, because they can do so much more and faster. We've covered stuff like the deep fakes. Do you remember the one in Hong Kong?
Yeah.
Where they deep faked the head and the face of the head finance guy or whatever. And he was literally having a video meeting with somebody saying, I need you to transfer 27 billion. Do it now.
Yeah.
If you're an employee seeing that, you're going to believe it.
Yeah. He's the boss.
Even scarier on this particular thing was that companies who were taking part in the survey said that, yes, AI fraud is on the up. 30% of these fraud attempts are successful. Our problem is that we don't have the expertise or the budget to keep up, because it is just moving so fast and old solutions are becoming less and less efficient.
Oh.
Kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Put it that way.
Other news.
Go on. Okay, before we get too down, what else is going on?
I'm flying through it. Google. Two interesting stories of Google to bring up to speed on. One is the Play Store. We've done an awful lot of Apple bashing. Probably I've done an awful lot of Apple bashing, and they come in for a lot of grief because, as everybody knows, you buy something through Apple, you're paying an extra 30%. That's the cut that Apple demand of any purchase made through their App Store. All right. And it's called the Apple tax. What not as many people know is that Google are the same. Google also charge 30% of all the money going through their store as a Google tax, if you want to put it that way. So we had a story a couple of months back where the EU has now forced Apple to open up their App Store, so that's not so much of a closed garden, and that people can make payments in different ways if that's the way that they want to do it. That was with the Apple App Store. What's interesting this week is that the United States has now done the same thing for Google Play.
What? Okay.
So it means that Google Play needs to open up its store and allow third-party app stores onto Android. Those third-party app stores have to have access to the Play Store and be able to offer the same apps if they wanted. And if people want to make payments for those apps or for services through those apps, they can do so through whatever device that the app developer chooses. It doesn't always have to go through Google. You can avoid the 30% upcharge, which I think is a good thing.
Interesting. So does this mean that kind of Google Play becomes a little bit of a white label? And if you want to set up my app store blah, you would have the same catalog?
I believe that's what it means. And the way Apple handled that was they said, okay, if you want to have access to our thing, yes, you can. Here are the terms and conditions. Starting off with, give us $1 million. $1 million or whatever it was. I'm sure Google will probably do something else like
that. Actually,
more or less,
reminds me.
That's what it means.
Yeah, that reminds me of. Do you remember we did a segment on the Minitel years ago? Last used in France, actually. Banks in France were using it until only a couple of years ago. But it was sort of an internet connected terminal, quite popular on the continent. Didn't really take off in Ireland because they were very, very expensive. You could develop apps for them, but you had to go to the government. I think it was being regulated with 25 grand plus basically a revenue stream. It's like you had to be a fully fledged company, and even then, the level of suspicion was just bonkers. So this could be the same thing again. Let's just price people out of the market and make sure nobody is interested in doing this.
Well, speaking of pricing people out of the market and money and all that kind of stuff, that's the second Google story this week, because they have been responding to an antitrust decision by a US judge or the Department of Justice, I think it was, who are recommending that Alphabet break up Google. So you got Google on one hand, you've got Chrome as a separate company, and Android is a separate company again. And this all comes from the case where Google were paying Apple, they were paying Samsung, they were paying who else? I think Mozilla or something like that. Huge amounts of money so that they would be the search engine, the default search engine on all of these devices. What are they paying Apple? It was 20 billion, 30 billion a year, something like that. Ridiculous.
It was something huge. Yeah.
Anyway, the US Department of Justice kind of went, no, that is definitely antitrust. You are not allowed to do that. And on top of that, we are now increasingly likely about to tell Google that they have to operate their various business strands as completely independent companies. So Android would have to be one company on its own. Chrome would have to be one company on its own. Maybe Google AdWords would have to be another company. I don't know. But Google have been responding and they're saying, what?
All of those entities will do just fine.
Of course they will.
They'll be profitable.
They're fighting back. They're saying that will jeopardize security and make bug patches a nightmare. They're saying the change in the business models will raise costs for everybody, that it will hamper AI innovation. But you know who I'm going to listen to the most?
Who?
Niall Kitson. The man who said, do you know what? It'll be fine.
Well, not only will it be fine, if Google say they can't do something, somebody is going to come along and actually do it. Because that's the nature of innovation. If a large company whose business model relies on saying, we can't do it, somebody is going to do it. And who's going to make money off it then?
We'll see. So listen, last story of the week for you. We both have similar things on this because Zoom had... We're doing their kind of little product update event. They call it Zoomtopia 2024. Oh my God. I'm not a fan of Zoom. I'm a former customer of Zoom. They just made it so darned complicated that I hate it now. I'm using Google Meet, which I find just so much more easy. Hey, here's a link. Just click on it and we'll have a meeting. Okay. You don't have to download an application and then insert a passcode and your email address and that drives me nuts. However, Zoom, and the other thing that really annoys me about Zoom, all right, this is the thing that drives me bananas. Is that when you close the Zoom application on your computer, it does not stop. It's just reverts into the background. It's always running 24/7 on your computer unless you very specifically find the way of exiting the application.
Yeah.
I don't trust it, all right, because of that. They don't tell anybody about it. You just hit X as you would do any other application to get out of it. It's still running there in the background. And that would worry me a little bit more now. I'm sounding like a mad tin hat person again, aren't I now?
It's your way.
Anyway, they've introduced an AI companion, and the AI companion is going to do, they've had it in there already, but it's going to do more stuff. At the moment, it's doing bullet points. It'll do notes of a call. It'll do summaries. But I think they've upgraded it now with Zoomtopia 2024 so that their AI will now remember previous conversations and be able to quote previous conversations.
Okay.
Now,
And
that's
does this chap have like, is it a little paperclippy fella that will go, I'll tell you what you just did? Like, is it a little homunculus that will, wave at you and stuff? Or is it just a function?
I don't know.
Okay.
Is the honest answer to that, but it's there. All right. I mean, I have one already that remembers and quotes previous conversations, and it's called my wife, but we won't go there. Salesforce, you were at during the week. They've had a big launch and stuff like that, and you were in London for it. What was the big thing you took away from what they're up to tech-wise?
They are in kind of a similar space. They are releasing what they call agents. And what's interesting is that not only do you get to build your own agents, you decide what functions they will have. Salesforce is also using low-code/no-code strategy in this, right? So previously, you might have said, I need, a chatbot to do this. Then you'd be like, okay, we need to employ a coder, a software engineer, et cetera, and things get very, very expensive. Under low-code or no-code development practices, you just go, I want this, and you click a box. And that's it. There's no actual coding involved. If you want to, you can.
Okay.
I mean, the option is there. But if you don't want to, if you don't have somebody around that can do that job, you can just drag it in or click a box or whatever, right? And this is how Salesforce envisions its agents being done. Now, one of the demonstrations that I saw was with Saks of Fifth Avenue. Saks is a Salesforce client, and they've been using Salesforce agents, and they had one developed. And basically, you can ring it up and say, I'm not happy with my order. Can you change it to this? Can you change it to this size? Can you change it to this product? And it can do all that stuff, right? I want to send it back. Can I pick it up? Can I pick up a replacement at the store? Yep, sure. We can sort that out. And it has that conversational element to it. It's got a nice, friendly voice. And it just reminds me of that first tier of, either a chatbot on a website or a call center interaction where you have somebody that's working to a script with a certain level of agency. They can fix certain things, they can't do others. And this is very much that experience. And you know what? You've got a human monitoring how these agents are going. And if they decide, we really should have them be able to do this, well, they can just go in and add a little function very, very easily. And there you go. And they had a guy on from Premiership soccer team in England. Sure, what the hell? I'll say Spurs. And he said, look, the problem that I have isn't finding AI coders, AI engineers. They're not out there anyway. So, I'm not going to worry about it. What I'm interested in are people that understand the business so they can tell me we need this. And because we use this platform here, I can just go, pop, and then you've added it to the offering. There you go. That is that is the future.
Very interesting indeed. Listen, I know that you'll have a full report on that on techcentral.ie, but maybe more on the podcast next week, interviews and stuff like that, seeing as you're in London for it. But for now, I think we just wrap up the news for this week. Now, as always, thank you very much.
Delivering Irish tech news since 2006, this is Tech Radio.
It takes more than money to turn an idea into a successful business. It's also about having the time and space to explore your ideas and having access to people who've done it all before who can act as mentors. Aaron Smith is Head of Innovation Ecosystem within the Fidelity Centre for Applied Technology at Fidelity Investments. He had a good chat with Niall Kitson during the week about an exciting collaboration with Dogpatch Labs, the FCAT Fellowship.
Aaron, one thing I've found in talking to either founders or people working in accelerators themselves, such as mentors, is that they tend to have a very personal relationship with technology. So tell us a bit about yours.
Yeah, true, Niall. That for me, sure, it goes right back to my youth, right back to the days as a 5-year-old kid. For me, it was when my dad brought home the first ever, home PC, the personal computer. And, after spending many weeks and months playing the standard video games, whether it be Space Invaders or whatever type of game was keeping me entertained, I really got intrigued with how the technology worked, how the actual computer worked, how the game loaded in. And after watching him for a few years on the back doorstep take apart like home appliances and bring them back together, I decided to pick up some of his tools and open up the PC and open up the computer and actually see what was inside and what made it work, from the PCB board to the components, the ribbon cables. So yeah, my affinity with technology goes right back to childhood.
All the way then into your professional life. So what were you working in industry, and did you prefer to stay within that engineering setting, or was there a little bit of you that thought, do you know what, I've got a great idea, I'd like to hang on to this and explore it?
So for me, going through third level education at university, standard electronics engineering degree, after qualifying, we actually got handed a booklet of 5,000 jobs. Here you go, off and get yourself a job in engineering. So I really didn't know where that was going to take me, but there was something happening. This was around 2000. So there was something happening in the realm of semiconductors. And after me just talking about, that child who opened up the PC to see the components, something really got to me, that the foundational components of things were where, the learning was. So I got into semiconductor design, explored engineering at its heart, right down to the silicon level. So I used to design semiconductor chips for a startup in Dublin, Ireland, started there called Parthis Technologies, and then moved to one of the largest in the world called National Semiconductor in the UK. That stemmed for a few years in engineering, but again, never truly felt fulfilled. Always felt there was more to technology, more to engineering in that space. So I kept exploring more and more, going from true engineering in labs to product marketing, where you would sell the actual, components and the products you would make, right into then actually project level and working in the project level side of engineering. And then I guess it hit a core function probably in 2013 when I joined MasterCard, when I started working on an Apple Pay project, where I really opened my eyes to the world beyond engineering and looking at financial technology. So fintech, as it was then due to be known, really opened my eyes that engineering foundation could literally open your eyes up to anything else that had technology. So I got into fintech for years and worked at MasterCard for 5.5 years, explored the ecosystems across Europe, even went to Australia for a couple of years to explore further ecosystems. And I even came back from Australia and tried my hands at being a startup founder myself. To your point about having a burning desire, there was a burning desire for me to see what was possible to become a startup founder himself.
But your inner engineer kind of won out in the end, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, there's an inner nerd and an inner geek inside of me that's never going to leave me. So that's always going to drive me forward for sure.
So let's have a look at the FCAT Fellowship, because what I think is quite interesting about this as opposed to other accelerators is that you're looking to explore not so much what can be commercialized now, but in the possible as well, and perhaps in technologies that haven't quite reached or haven't had that sort of inflection point yet, but they're going to get there. They're what you might refer to as inevitable technologies.
Yeah, so following on from my time of being a failed founder, I joined Fidelity in a role of innovation ecosystem for the team FCAT, Fidelity's Centre for Applied Technology. And FCAT's remit is really to look forward into, as you say, emerging technologies that are still unknown, still very niche, very new, very nascent, and really explore those areas through a research lens and apply what we see as our experience and our insights on those technologies, on those societal changes, and really bring them back into Fidelity to understand what could be possible going forward. So the FCAT team in itself, we really explore various different areas that, we don't put a timeline on them, but we look at areas of 5 to 10 years plus. And that could involve anything from quantum. It could involve, obviously, artificial intelligence right now is on a huge dawn, a huge hype cycle. But we go beyond that hype cycle with artificial intelligence to go, where could we see the software, the hardware actually evolve into society in the future? And everything right down to, of course, we've explored the future of financial services around blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, and where that may end up impacting everyday lives. And we've even started to explore areas around the human-machine interface. So where robotics and an augmentation of humanity may appear in society going forward.
It's interesting that you're taking such a long timeline or a long view on this as sort of the 5 to 10 year window, when people are quite used to, I've got 12 weeks to get the most out of this program. So how are you finding interest in terms of the people that are coming to you with ideas or sort of coming to you with a startup idea? Is there a sense of, wow, fantastic, I get to explore my product to its fullest before releasing it to market? Is there that sort of freedom, or do you find people are still might bring a little bit of impatience with them to think, okay, here's my idea, I want to release it now?
For us, impatience in founders is a positive nature. It keeps you striving forward. It keeps you wanting to push boundaries. But to clarify around the fellowship, it's not exactly an accelerator program where startups come with a very curated product service offering or product market fit. We look to work with the founders at the very, very early stages where they have an outline of what that product market fit might be. They have an outline of at least the problem statement on where their solution, offering, or service is. And what we're looking to offer them at that time on their journey is really some of the key characteristics that they're going to need as startup founders. They will eventually need significant capital. They will, of course, need customers to utilize their product, service, or offering. And they will, of course, need to either build, buy, or borrow technology and actually grow. So what we do is we work in the areas where FCAT is strong in. FCAT has got a lot of access to both internal and external customers to engage some of those ideas, some of those problem statements. We have, of course, within FCAT, have access to a lot of technology and resources, both technical resources from a tech stack perspective, right through to human resources, software developers, etc., and mentors who can offer insight, advice, and guidance that the startup founders might be looking for, might not know that is in the market, and actually something that they'll strive to need to actually curate their product offering for the market.
That's always fascinating, the role of mentors, that somebody might come to them with an idea that or a problem that they hadn't thought of, but going, actually, through the lens of my experience, this is how you might actually do it. How important is the mentor figure, and can you ever have too many mentors?
So for me and for the founders that we engage, the mentorship aspect is really, really critical. It's, as a startup founder, one of the biggest challenges you have is soundboarding your ideas off other people. It can be a very lonely journey for startup founders at the very beginning. Sometimes they're solo founders, sometimes they're small teams of 2 and 3 people. And so you really do need that experience elsewhere. Sometimes you have to pay for that experience, and you see startup founders giving away access to equity on their boards, giving away access to equity as part of investment. The FCAT Fellowship takes none of that. So we're not an equity status program. We're not looking to take anything from the founders. It's very much a give first mentality, where we're looking to support those founders with the experience we have, both in FCAT, in Fidelity, as well as our broader and wider network and ecosystem. So the mentors that we're looking to support the founders with, primarily, yes, will come from FCAT and Fidelity itself, but also we have an extended network across Europe and the US that we can help to tap in specifically for those founders' needs. Whether those needs are, financial guidance of how to actually price out strategies, or whether it's right down to product development or into the heart of the user design research. All these aspects and attributes are needed by startup founders as they look to really curate that product offering for market. And so we'll come in with as many mentors as the startup founder needs to guide them forward. And that might be 1, 2, 3, 4. But the startup founder, to your question, could never have too many mentors that could assist them and guide them at this stage of their growth path.
FCAT, of course, it's not a program that is starting in Ireland. It's already very successful around the world. How are you finding Irish founders are embracing the challenge, I suppose, of getting a fellowship, while understanding that, you're going to be on a global stage, but hey, your ideas are as good as anyone's? Do you find there is that sort of cultural thing of the Irish person, the plucky Irish person, feeling that they're working against the world or something like that?
So I think you can see from the recent launch of fellowship through the partnership with Dogpatch Labs that we really have got a diverse program to access the startup founders, from G clinics looking to democratize access to genomics and genetics, to lip video with David Atkinson looking to do real-time lip syncing translation, to Cormac and Patrick at DevAlly to look at accessibility of code construct on a website, a browser, and an app. I think it shows that the program itself has breadth and depth to actually access for those founders, but the founders as well come to us with, a lot of attributes that we're looking for in founders. We're looking for humility, openness. We're looking for, you mentioned that pluckiness, that real drive and passion going forward. It's in essence to have as a startup founder that you've got an affinity to solve that problem. It's not something to just hang on to as the hype curve or the hype cycle that's coming in, but it's something that you feel really strongly about to drive forward. So in all the founders that we've come through the program so far, there is that drive there, that cultural aspect to really, get things moving forward. And it's something that is key and core to a lot of startup founders. It's not just built into the Irish culture or Irish ecosystem. Speaking as an Irishman, I can proudly say that. It's actually quite an affinity of a lot of startup founders, that they've come from difficult or challenging backgrounds, or they have a problem that is difficult or challenging personally for them to solve, and they're really throwing themselves into it.
Lastly, in looking at the opportunity to tackle problems over a longer timeline, have you found people sort of joining the program at one point with sort of one problem in mind, and through the process of networking, mentorship, product design, come up with an end product to take the market that is actually quite different from what they came to you with initially?
I think every startup founder or any ecosystem member that is involved with startup founders will openly say that a startup journey is never a straight path from A to B. Pivots, turns, U-turns are always expected, anticipated as a startup founder. So we very much see that in the founders coming forward. We've had founders apply for this program where we've given them the feedback that perhaps the problem statement they've brought to the program isn't quite one that's going to resonate with the market, and given them that feedback to go back, readjust the actual offering, readjust the problem statement, and obviously reapply to the next cohort that comes along. So yes, for us, Niall, the journey of a startup founder is going to have multiple turns, multiple 180s. Let's see where it takes us going forward into that unknown future. And it's our job as part of the FCAT Fellowship is to really guide them on those turns and really make sure that they feel comfortable in taking those turns going forward.
And that was Aaron Smith from Fidelity Investments chatting with Niall Kitson.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
That's it for our show this week. Do check out some of the other stories we have online for you, including
Yeah, we've got a report on the recent Dell Technologies Forum in Dublin. Samsung's hopes for a big quarter are tempered by a lack of progress in AI. And the healthcare sector has put out a call for companies working in sustainability.
You'll find those stories and more online at techcentral.ie. We're back again next Friday with a brand new show online and, of course, with RTE Radio 1 Extra. And do remember, please share our podcast with a friend. Just tell them to look up Tech Radio Ireland on Apple, Spotify, or now also on YouTube. From Niall Kitson and myself, Dusty Rhodes, thanks for listening. Have a great weekend.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.